Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Masters Muscle Podcast. Vinny, I got to be honest. The Rich Gaspari is trending #1, but I have a feeling after tonight, this show is going to be #1. But before we bring on our guest, I want to go ahead and show a quick video for people that don't know who he is, but I'd be surprised if nobody doesn't know who he is. So, Vinny, go ahead and introduce the man of honor.
So, I want to welcome Lee Priest to the show tonight. Welcome to my Masters Muscle. Thank you so much. It's an honor.
Thank you. It's like I see those videos, and it's like you probably feel the same, Vinny. Sometimes people send them to you, and they're like, "Lee, thanks for the inspiration. This inspires me." And I sit there watching it, and the more I watch it, I get more depressed, going, "Oh fuck, I don't look like that anymore." Or in your mind too, it's like, "What? That's from 06." And in my mind, you think, "Oh, that's only like 7 years ago." Then you start adding up, like, "Oh, fucking hell, that's like almost fucking 15 years ago."
A long time ago. So let me ask you, you started out competing when you were like 13 or 14 years old, right? How did you get involved in bodybuilding?
My grandfather, he did a lot of wrestling in the army and stuff, and he was always into fitness, like one of those guys who, you always hear a Zabo doing thousands of sit-ups and thousands of sit-ups. My grandfather.
Whoa. Oh, we lost you, Lee.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
No one ever fucking calls me. I do a podcast and someone calls. What I was saying with my grandfather, he was always into fitness, so he would always be doing sit-ups and push-ups and stuff like that. He's one of those guys who could skip rope for an hour or just on, remember those little trampolines they used to have where people would just bounce on them and bounce on them?
Yeah.
He would do that. So I'm like, yeah, okay. I started doing just body weight stuff because, people go, if you do weight training, it'll stunt your growth and stuff like that. I'm like, my grandfather's about 5'2", my mother's 5'2", my father's about 5'4", so there was no giants in my family. So I always said to people, as long as you train correctly and you're not going crazy with heavy weights where you're going to do damage, training at a young age is perfect because you're growing, your muscles are growing, your testosterone through those teenage years is good. So I started just doing basic stuff at home with him, but then it would have been around 85, 86. I just got into the He-Man cartoon. And once I saw He-Man, it's like, I want to look like He-Man. There was no, I wanted to be a bodybuilder or anything like that. It's just, I wanted to look like He-Man. And then I started training, and guys at the gym are like, you look pretty good. There's, we had a thing called Schoolboys Division, 18 years and under. They said, why don't you do that? And my mum didn't think I'd do it because I hated sports where, like, I didn't really like team sports, but also I did karate and I went to magic school, but I was always embarrassed because in karate, you got to go, yeah, anything yelling. I'm like, I don't like it. And they'd sit around and watch you while they grade you. So I hated that. And when I did magic, I went to this magic school for almost 2 years. And every time I went to do a trick on stage, I'm like, I'm going to fuck this up and they're going to see where the rabbit's hidden, or they're going to, work out what I'm doing. So when I said to my mum, I'm going to do a bodybuilding show, she's like, you're going to walk out on stage in nothing but your underwear, are you? I went, I'll give it a go. And I come back with my first trophy, and then I just got hooked on it. I didn't really like the competing. Even into the pro years, I didn't like the competing. I just loved the training side of it. That's why, as dumb as I am, I still do it now and keep training even around injuries and that. But yeah, just to look like the He-Man. You get people now, I'm sure you get them, Vinny, who go, I want to be Mr. Olympia. I want to do this. It's like, slow down. How about you start at a local show and work your way up? And I always tell people too, yes, it's good to think that, but if you just train correctly, you eat correctly, if you've got the genetics, I tell people, you will slowly grow and you'll know that bodybuilding's meant for you. Because we've all seen guys who train year after year, throw all the gear in year after year, and they still look like shit. But in their mind, if I just take more gear, I'll get there. So, it's just crazy. So, yeah, that's how I got into it.
Your mom also competed too?
Yeah. When I was 17, I've been competing for like roughly 5 years. My mum's like me. You see me in the off season, I'm a little bit fat, shall we say, a little bit of fluid. My mother's like, if I get into shape, will you do the couples with me? And because my mum was a little bit overweight, I just looked at her and went, yeah, get in shape, I'll do it. Because in my mind, I'm thinking, I don't want to be fucking seen on stage with my mother. You know, you're a young kid. So after 8 months of training, she got in great shape. So we did the couples, and we were the first mother and son in the world to compete in the couples and win a couples division. And she tells the story where I just won the Mr. Australia, and she was on the other side of the stage because our routine starts where we both walk across the stage and we meet in the middle. So I walked around the back of the curtain. I come over. She's all excited. She's with my sister. She thinks I'm going to give her words of encouragement. I just looked at her and said, now, don't you fuck this up. and then I walked away, and she's just standing there. And halfway through the routine, we're doing our posing. And there's a part where we come off the floor and we reach our hands out. And she's meant to just leave her hand out. I take it. She went blank. I'm like, oh, fuck, she's forgot it. So I sort of stepped in close to her and took her arms and lifted them like this. The judges and people were crying, and they're like, that was so beautiful, that part. And she's like, yeah, I forgot the routine. So
was that her first show, or she competed previously too?
That was her very first show.
Wow.
Wow, that's pretty. And did she do individual also, or just a couple?
Yeah, she won a few local shows and the state title and that, but she only did it for like, I want to say 3 years. And then I always say, people say, why did she quit? I'm like, she was the smart one in the family. So
that's funny.
Lee, did you get hazed or anything competing with your mother? I mean, any of your friends or anything bust your chops?
No, because when someone just asked me this the other day about school friends. And because I left school early at 14 and got a job so I could train, all my friends were probably mid-30s, 40s, married. So all my childhood friends I never really saw after that. So I was always around an older crowd who were into the sport and respected it and that sort of thing. And yeah, well, she used to get comments like, oh, I remember back in the day, I think, Vinny, it was like the get big board and stuff back then. It was like, look at Lee's mother. Lee's got to be giving his mother steroids and this and that. I'm just like, oh. It's just so even today now, it's like, that's the whole thing these days, isn't it? Steroids this, steroids that, and you're never going to change the mindset. If I see the word trend one more time, I'm like,
Right. How did you obtain your IFBB Pro card?
Well, normally if you win your national title, you get your pro card. And at 17, when I won my national title, I thought, I'll get my pro card. They said, no, you're too young. You can't get your pro card. So at 18, I won the Mr. Australia again. No, you're too young. I'm like, fuck. 19, I won it again. And they're like, no. So I was coming over. That's when Lou Zwick, you probably had phone calls from Lou Zwick back in the day. Did you?
Lou Zwick. Yeah.
Did he call you like 1 a.m.?
Oh, yeah.
How big are your legs? So like, it was weird questions at that hour. Well, when he would call me, he would be like 2 a.m. So, Lee, what are you doing? Sleeping. It's fucking 2 a.m.
Yeah.
And then he'd throw out a random question like this. Do you like Eddie Robinson? I'm like, yeah. He's got big arms. Are your arms bigger? Can you beat Eddie? I'm like, fuck, I'm only 19. What the fuck are you on about? So he brought me to America to do the Niagara Falls Amateur in 1993. And I was just in Gold's Gym, and Ed Connors saw me in that. And then the same day, by chance, Jim Mannion was in Gold's Gym, and I think Ed and Jim were talking, and he was asking what I'd done. And once he found out I'd won my national title 3 times, they're like, why doesn't he have his pro card? I said, they won't give it to me. So he contacted the IFBB in Australia. They got the go ahead. They spoke to Wayne, and they granted my pro card. So I went and did the Niagara Falls Pro Show instead of the amateur.
Wow.
And that was 20? Age 20?
19, just turned 20, yeah.
Wow.
20, yeah.
So is that the youngest? Because Vinny, I know you said there was someone else that was young that got their pro card. Is that the youngest pro?
Wasn't Shane? Was Shane DeMore at 19?
Right. Shane DeMore won the nationals at 19.
Okay.
So technically, I could have been the youngest at 17 if they give me my pro card, but
Right. Yeah. That's
wasn't Sean Ray 22 or 20, 21?
I think.
Yeah, I don't think he was in his teens. I think he was 20 or 21. Yeah.
The shows aren't like the way they used to be.
Now, isn't it funny? I was just thinking that the other day when you look back to a lot of the pros, a lot of them were turning pro in the 20s, early 20s. Now, some don't turn pro to their mid-30s and stuff. It's funny how it's changed.
A little bit. Yeah, well, I think because when we were so I'm 55 now, but when I was in 1986, I did the Team USA. I took second in it, and there was like 75 teenagers in it. Now you don't see maybe one teenager in a contest. There's different venues now. There's different avenues for the kids to go to.
Yeah, and remember too the lineups too. I remember
deep
some
lineups.
Some of the USA's when it was like when you had the Cormier and Flexes and Mike Francois, like top guys that went on to be top pros all into one class and stuff. It was crazy back then.
Yeah, you don't see that today.
Yeah, I think is Nick Walker one of the youngest we've had in a while now? Or?
I think so. He looks insane. He's coming into the Arnold.
It's going to be an interesting Arnold this weekend, isn't it? This weekend.
Yeah. What do you think? What's your prediction?
Oh God, Dave
was asking me top three. Give us three, Lee. Brought it up.
Okay, top three. I'd go in no order.
No, give us an order if you can. Come on. I like Samson. Samson's my guy.
I like Samson too. If Samson brings it, he could win it. But then it's like if Andrew Jack brings it, if Nick brings it, and then I'm not counting out Sean Clarita either, because if any of those guys are a little bit off, Sean's conditioning and his shape and the muscle bellies he has, he can be. I see Sean being in the top 5.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna. I always said predictions is like they keep changing all the time, because it's going to be a great show anyway. Then Rami, like we forget about Rami, but the only thing I see sometimes is now Nick's like one of those guys. He's always in good condition. Sean Clarita's going to be in great condition, but I think with Sampson and Andrew Jack, what they got going for him is we haven't seen the actual best of them yet. Like at the Olympia, they look good, but any improvement from the Olympia in the judges' eyes, they're going to be like, oh, fuck, they've improved. Whereas the others still are good, but they still look the same. You know what I mean? So
Sure.
So that could be in their favor. If they've improved that much, the judges are going to be like, oh, wow, look at that.
But I think that Sean Clarita has improved even more from the Olympia.
I heard he's going to be a little bit heavier too. So
yeah, he's like a couple pounds heavier and he's denser. I don't know how he's doing it. It's pretty cool.
I think it's good to see that. I like to see the 212s go up there against the big guys and take it to them, because, you know, big guys mentality. He should never beat me. He's only this much weight and that. But when you're on stage, it's an illusion. The weight, forget the weight. It doesn't matter.
Of course. Yeah.
Lee, so, when you were coming up, was there anybody that did you admire more, the smaller guys, just bodybuilders in general? I mean, who are you trying to aspire to be?
I trained with Tom Platz a fair bit, but it wasn't like one bodybuilder I admired the most, because I got a great with Matarazzo. Like Paul Dillette lived with me for 8 months. It was more like, even coming up, I like guys' body parts, like Tom Platz's legs, Eddie Robinson's arms. So I wouldn't say there was one guy, but then after I watched a lot of Tom Platz's seminars, you know, if somebody asked him a steroid question, he was straight down the line and said, yes, I've used them, blah, blah, blah. So I like that attitude. I like Mike Matarazzo because he was down to earth. Anyone that was sort of down to earth and didn't have an ego, I sort of preferred that more over somebody who could have been a champion, but they were stuck up themselves. So I never really liked that. You know, do you know who I am? I'm like, fuck off, you're a bodybuilder, big deal. It's like, wow.
Yeah, I've heard some of your stories with Paul Dillette and the pie stories and everything else, which are classics.
Now, Vinny, I've got a question for you. I hear you could be doing the Masters Olympia. Is this true?
Yeah, I filled out my I signed a letter of intent.
Cool.
You know, I'm having a second resurgence here in my career.
Yeah, I reckon. Why not? People say, oh, they shouldn't do it at that age. I'm thinking, if you're healthy and you still look good, why not? Why not give it a go? It's like,
I know the biggest thing I'm getting is like, you're gonna do all those drugs. You're gonna do all. I'm like, you don't know what I do. Like I don't know what I do, and like I would never put my health in that harm. Right? I wouldn't do anything stupid.
That's the biggest pet peeve I hate, because I've always been truthful from day one. When I did those videos with Tom Platz, you know, where I didn't disguise my face, I was the only person that didn't. I've always said, this is the gear I've used. These are the amounts. You're fucking lying. You take this. I read online. I'm like, you read online. I'm a pro telling you that you don't need these large amounts. Why you believe somebody you don't know? And I'm telling you, all you pros lie because you just want us to think you're better than us. I'm like, I'm just like, I give up now. It's just like, I want you to listen to us because I want you to do it, but do it with minimal drugs. You can do it if you try. That's why I tell these people, if you're taking, say, 2,000 grams a week, I say, go back to 1. I guarantee you'll still be just as good. You still make gains. You still feel good. But in their mind, they're like, I can't go back. I've got to keep increasing. And It's just stupid, the mentality. And I said, like half the stuff you read on the boards, these so-called bro science guru experts, I'm like, you're listening to these people who have done nothing. And it's like, I've told people this is what I take. Well, such and such told me you took this. I'm like, I don't even know that guy, so how would he know what I take? Well, it's like crazy.
Yeah, I'm sure you get it all the time or have heard about it. Because you publicly have said what you've done. And
all the time.
Just can't wrap their head around the fact that it's a small amount.
I know. Well, it's that like mentality. Like, say you're at a seminar and you're a young kid sitting there, Lee, what do you take? And I say, look, right now I'm taking sus. I take 1 mil every 8 days. But back in the heyday, if I was sitting there doing a seminar, I say, look, I only take 400 milligrams a test. These young kids are like, I'm on 1,000. He's bigger than me. He's fucking bullshitting. He's got to be taking way more than me. Yeah. Like, it doesn't work like that, people. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't
work that way. It does. I think we come from a different era too. I mean, when I was first training back in the 80s, 90s, I was taught training, nutrition, and then supplementation. And that was the last thing. And nobody ever talked about it because
I was just saying that the other day on a podcast. It's like, I knew about drugs coming up, but it was just like, I wanted to do all the training, go as far as I could without the drugs first, because you don't know what your genetic potential is if you don't go as far as you can without them. And then when I did start the drugs at 19, I took Deca. And then a few months later, I tried Test, because sometimes people do their first cycle and it's like Test, Deca, Dianabol. They're like, oh, the drugs are working good. I'm like, how do you know? If you do one at a time, you know how your body reacts to it, if it's good for you or not. If you throw them all in, like some guys would take 6 different drugs before a contest and go, oh, the Prope's working, this is working. I'm like, how do you know what's working? You just got everything in there. I'm like, it's just crazy the way it was like I said, now the young kids, I know kids that before they join a gym, they're on the gear. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? It's crazy.
I see it all the time. And like now I'm the old guy in the gym and
join the club.
They don't, right. So how old are you now?
I'll be 51 this year, so I'm in the 50 club.
Yep. Do you have any like you get up and it's warm there in Australia. You're at the top there, so I'm in Jersey and it's freezing here. So my elbows, my knees, everything hurts every day.
You're in the Guy Sistonino curse area.
Yep.
But Vinny's taller though. Vinny's taller.
Oh, don't say that to Guy now. Come on. Yeah, but I don't really touch wood. I got, little nagging ones. Well, it would have been like a month ago now. I slightly tore where my pec ties in here in the bicep area because I was walking both my dogs. This guy let his dog off a leash and I got 2 American staffies. So combined, they're 230 pounds. They sort of lurched forward and I had the leads on my hands. So I went snap really quick. I'm like, oh, fucking hell. So I had to go get one of those PRP injections. So that's been slowing me down. But 5 years ago, I had a woman crash into me and crushed all the nerves in my neck here. So I got muscle atrophy, a bit in my chest, the triceps slowly coming back after 2 neck operations. So apart from that, I've been actually pretty fine with training and stuff. But like I said, if I go to do legs one day, I could do legs for a month, no problem. Go to do them again, I start warming up on extensions. Oh, fuck the knees. So they come and go, but touch wood, nothing major. But all the injuries I've had have been outside the gym. So
I didn't realize you had surgery.
Yeah, 2 on the neck. Yeah.
Oh, what year was that?
The last one was only 2 years ago when I went in through the neck here because the first one didn't work. So they were going through the neck. They move all your stuff to the side. And it looked like a little USB card with prongs in it that go both ways like that. And it's meant to hold it open so the nerve can sort of go through the middle freely. But nerves reattaching or regrowing is just a slow process. And some days I'm like, oh, it's coming good. Then the next day I'm like, oh, fuck. So I'm just happy to go to the gym now. And if I get a pump, I get a pump. And it's more mental than anything now, just going to the gym to feel good. And then I started doing boxing for a while, just for cardio and stuff. And it's been fun. But since I tore this, I haven't been able to do that. So I'm just like, I'll get up and just go and whatever.
Gotcha.
Do you ever train with your daughter?
No, she trains a fair bit still, but she doesn't compete anymore. I always said she was a smart one too, but she competed for a few years and got a pro card, but now she's just more into working and she still religiously gets up and goes to the gym early in the morning or at night time. So yes, she's still into it.
I was going to ask you, but obviously it doesn't matter if she asked you to do a couples if you'd come out of retirement, but it doesn't sound like she's competing anymore anyway.
She's mentioned that before though, but I'm thinking, I don't know. I said, I'll have to do one of those. I've actually got a guy in America now. He's making me a nice cosplay Superman suit, and he's showing me how it's coming along. But he actually makes those muscle suits, and so it's like at the moment I've seen it, I'm thinking, fuck, I could just get that muscle suit and wear it under my clothes because it fits you so tight. It's got the chest, the arms. If you had one underneath clothes, because it moves when you move, so I'm thinking this is fantastic. I'm just going to wear this.
Would you ever consider competing again?
You know, Dave, like I said, because everyone brings up the Masters because they see photos of me now. I've still got some size in that. But the main thing with me is the triceps come back and the back slowly. But I've got my chest at the moment is a bit like, you know, Scott Steiner, where that bit of chest is going away. It almost looks like a dog's taken a bite out of it from the nerve damage. So I don't know, because it looks so funny standing front on because my chest is here. This chest bit's just here. So I got this big gap. And then I looked into, you could get fat injected, but they're like, if you ever diet down for a contest, when you diet, the fat will go. So it's no use. But they said we can put an implant under the muscle. I'm thinking, at fucking 50 years old, getting like, you know, they've got to detach your chest muscle, put it under it and reattach it. I said, my luck, I'd probably die on the table. They'd be like, oh, that fucking Lee Priest, look at the idiot, die and get the chest implant. Fucking so,
but has anyone approached you about the Masters Olympia yourself? Like,
No. I'm probably still non grata with the powers that be.
Yeah, because here people are talking, Lee Priest is going to do the Olympia, and the Masters Olympia, and I'm like, I don't know. And it's funny because I have a couple of buddies that I met.
I'm inspiring you, Vinny.
There you go. So I remember when you first started competing, I was watching your magazines. You had the Superman tattoo.
Mm-hmm.
And then
I said I'll never get another one.
But how did it escalate to where you are now?
I was thinking about that the other day. I remember I got the Superman tattoo, and then I had a NASCAR tattoo here, and then I had like Priest on the back of my neck, and then it just carried on. I don't know how. And then I had flames on the forearm. I don't know. But then I know when I went to some countries, like when I was in England, because you're sort of, a lot of guys that own tattoo shops are in the training. I went to England for 2 weeks and come home with 6 new tattoos because, hey, Lee, I got a shop. Come to the tattoo shop. I'll do a tattoo. So I'm like, okay, let's get another tattoo. But the very first one I got, I was with Sean Davies and Chris Cormier. It's Chris's idea. I blame Chris. Let's go to the tattoo shop. So I went to the tattoo shop in Venice. There's only 2 chairs available. So I hop in a chair. Sean Davies hops in a chair. Chris like, I'll see you later. I'm fucking out of here. And he took off. So I was like,
Lee, somebody had asked, where did the fascination come with Superman? And do you still do Superman collectibles?
No, I don't collect anymore because I think I wasted too much money. But ever since I was a young kid, I used to get up at 5 a.m. and watch the was it George Reeves that used to be on the black and white Superman show?
Oh yeah,
I watched that, and then from the age of 4, my mum would always just make me a Superman suit. So I always liked it. And then being in America, you can collect anything there. They just had so much stuff, and I just carried on with it. And then this guy on the Instagram, he makes like beautiful, proper movie style suits. So he contacted me, go, do you want a Superman suit, mate? I'm like, sure, with the muscles. Yeah, I'll never get out of it.
That's cool. Hey, so I have a question on training. Mm-hmm. So when I started to get back into training after I had shoulder surgeries and I didn't train for a while, and I started to watch some of your, I was trying to Google anything on leg training, and I came across a lot of your stuff with your thought process on full range of motion, deep squats compared to like partial squats. And my legs have grown doing it your way opposed to anything else. How did you have the confidence to not do what everyone else was doing?
Well, I did try. It's like I tell people now, because people, I was just saying on a thing the other day that my biggest pet hate is when people say, Lee, what's the best exercise for this or what's the best for that? I tell them, you got to work that out yourself, because it'd be like me saying for biceps, for me, barbell curl's the best. But Vinny, you might go, well, I feel more doing dumbbell curl. I get more of a squeeze and stuff. Well, if that's what you feel, do that. Don't just do it because I got big arms. You know, people say, well, Platts has big legs, he does this, I'm going to do that, when for you that might not be beneficial. So I think it was just trial and error. I tried the deep squats, and every time I went really deep, I always find that tendon just on the top of the knee would always feel bruised. So I'm like, oh, fuck, that feels a bit shit. It's hurting. So I backed off and just went parallel. Like I'd stop at parallel and then things like that. So I think it's just through trial and error. You got to find what works for you. But like I said, you can see somebody do something and go, well, Ronnie's got a big back doing that. Let me try it. When for you, that might not be the most beneficial exercise for you. It's like when I'd see people compete, they'll do this pose or something like that. It's like, oh, like that doesn't suit you. Or you see a skinny guy wobble his leg like Tom Platz. I say, why'd you do that? I love when Tom does it. I'm like, well, it looks good on Tom, but it doesn't look good on you. So, you gotta find what works for you and stick to it. And you can only do that through trial and error. So it's just like one of those things. I've never followed the lead. I've always done my own thing. So just because someone was doing something, I'm like, I'll give it a go. But if I don't feel it, I'm not going to do it. Whereas I know some people will train with somebody, and if they're doing a certain exercise, they'll do it. But yet to them, they might not feel anything from it. So I'm like, do your own thing, just, you got to find what works for you. The same with dieting, the same with everything. It's like, I've always said, you could train the same as Ronnie, eat the same as Ronnie, take the same drugs. You're not going to look like Ronnie. So, you got to find what works for you. It's the same with, you probably noticed too, when you're dieting for a contest, people say, why is it in shape? You could do one diet 1 year and come in shredded. So you think next year I'm going to use the same diet. You could use the exact same diet, but you look different. You've always got to make changes all the time because your body's always changing. So
yeah, absolutely. I've learned that now, even in my 50s. I had one program that was working, and then I had to tweak it last year. So yeah, I mean, it's cool. I always found you interesting because you have an open mind and you talk and you just get things.
And more of an open mouth than a mind.
Well, yeah, that's what
my mind didn't work. My mind was always second to work after my mouth.
Yeah, so I want to tell everybody before we got on the air. Before I said to Lee, I said, I don't know if you remember this. It was 1993, and I was in the posing room at Gold's Gym in Venice Beach. It was a few days before the USA. It was I think it was in Venice Beach. Yeah, right.
I think wasn't it Santa Monica at that
Santa Monica?
Santa Monica.
Santa Monica Civic Center. And I was in there with my friend Chris Barron, and you were in there, and we had to sign an appointment card to get in. And I set it up. I had the appointment, and next thing I know, the door is being smashed on, and I was all nervous. And there's Paul DeMeo screaming at me, "Get the fuck out of the room!" I got to pose. I'm like, "But I signed the thing because I don't give a fuck what you signed." And Lee got up, came over. He was the negotiator. He was like, "Paul, calm down, relax for a minute. Let Vinny finish his posing. I don't fucking care what he's doing. He's done. He's out. Get the fuck out." And then I think I just left. I was like, Paul was like this monster. And here I am.
He just left me there by myself.
I thought I was going to get my head ripped off from Paul DeMeo.
Meanwhile, Lee was getting his head beat in.
So I thank you for that. I think that was the first time we met. It was 93. Yeah.
I'm a stand-up guy, see?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Lee, being so outspoken, I mean, obviously great physique. Everybody knows you for the physique, but everybody knows you for being outspoken. Do you think at the end of the day that hurt your placings? We know you were suspended multiple times, but your actual placings at the shows?
I'm sure it did, but, people always say if I could go back, would I change? And I'm like, no, because the first time I ever lied to my mother, I got the biggest fucking ass whooping. I mean, like the belts, the jug board, whatever she could grab, I was getting hit with it. And she goes, no matter what you do to me, she goes, or whatever, she just said, never lie to me. So always be truthful. So I always carried that from that day on. And even when I came to America in the bodybuilding, it was like, I never attacked anyone personally. It was just like if I saw athletes being treated bad and promoters weren't doing the right thing, I just spoke about it. It wasn't like an attack. It was like, okay, this is happening. How can we make it better? But they're like, just shut your mouth and whatever. Because I was making good money. I didn't have to say anything. I was placing well. I had good contracts. But there's a lot of other guys who are training hard like me who weren't making anything when they should have been because they were pro bodybuilders. And I just didn't like seeing, I just don't like it when people stand over other people or they just talk down to them. Or they're like, you do as we say. It's like, wait a minute. Without us, you don't have an organization. Without us, you don't have contest. We're the athletes. So just like be fair and treat us with respect. So I always just spoke out about it and then I'd always get punished for it. So, oh well.
Yeah, and you've got a lot of respect too for what you did at the Olympia years ago, where I know people out of the placing were not getting money, and you were kind enough. I don't remember if you donated the purse or part of your prize, but I mean, I've seen the video with you with the long hair giving Wayne a good old letter there.
Yeah, well, from that day, once I gave Wayne the letter, everybody got $2,000 out of the top 10. And luckily, because that show I didn't want to do it, I looked at shit. I was out of the top 10, so at least I got $2,000. So, yeah, but the thing was, even then, it was so funny because Kathy didn't know I was going to do that. I was with Kathy LaFrancois at the time, and when she saw me give Wayne the letter, she's just like, "Oh God, there it goes. He's off again." So, and the same thing happened at San Francisco. I just did an MD article where I'm talking about the politics in the sport. Everything else, I get to the athletes meeting. I'm the first one there because I like to get there early. Wayne's in there. He's got the magazine. He goes, "Lee, come here." I'm like, "Oh, fuck, here we go." Cappy's sitting down. We start going over it. We're yelling at each other. "Well, why just say this?" I said, "Because it's happening." Wayne's like, "I know it's happening." I said, "Well, you run the organization. Make sure it doesn't." It said that there's a couple of judges, I won't name names, but they said, "I don't care how such and such looks. I like him that much, or he looks that cute. I'm always going to put him first." I said, if you have people judging like that and you know it, they shouldn't be judging. So we had this big argument. Athletes start coming in, it quiets down. The meeting goes on. I go back to the room. I said to Kathy, "Oh, I'm fucked for tomorrow." It's like, I don't even feel like doing the show. Did the show, ended up winning, and I'm backstage just cleaning up, and Wayne comes over and goes, "Are you surprised you won?" I said, "Well, after our argument, yeah, because you know how things go." He goes, "Lee," he goes, "I'll tell you one thing." He goes, "I respect you because in that article you asked, why does it happen?" He goes, "I'll tell you why. Because I can say something, you might complain and I'll suspend you. That will scare the other 50 odd guys and they'll do as I say. So that's why I do what I do." So even though he was an asshole, I gave him respect for being honest about it. So.
Jeez.
Yeah, I heard he was very tough.
Oh, yeah. I remember once on the European tour, we were just traveling, we hadn't slept, no food, and everyone's complaining, and Wayne stands up on the bus and goes, "Guys, I know what you're going through. I just brought a new leather recliner and I haven't had a chance to sit in it myself." We're all like, "What the fuck?" It's like, you got a leather recliner, you haven't got a chance to sit in it. We've been dieting for fucking, because this was after the Olympia, so we would have been going 17 weeks. And on that European tour, we did 7 shows in 9 days where you're just in and out on a plane, in an airport, on a plane. It's just like crazy. It's like, okay, yeah, Wayne, that's exactly the same, not sitting in your new seat.
How did you guys manage food, water, going from flight to flight?
Oh, you just had to get what you could. Like some promoters, when we got to Budapest, the promoter had chicken and like carbs, but it was like almost fried chicken and roasted potatoes. So you're like taking the skin off, eating what you can. And that's the funny thing, because the very last show, Ronnie won. Because about the 4th show, me, Dillette, and Vince Taylor, we're like, fuck this. We're in Helsinki. We find like a Burger King type place we're eating there. We find the Chinese. And Milos was on a podcast the other day. We're talking about it where he was getting so mad at Paul and I, because I was getting third in a lot of shows. It was like Kevin, Nasser, me, and then Paul. And then another show would be Kevin, Nasser, Paul, and me. So I think I got like 3 thirds on the tour of 4th and that. But then towards the end of the last 2 shows, I was just like, well, this was Paul's idea. There was this thing we had to go to called Uncle Sam's Clothing. And Paul's like, "We're not going. They're paying Wayne to go, but we don't get nothing from it." So Paul said, "Stay here, son." He always called me son. I'm sitting in the restaurant with him. They're all on the bus waiting for us. NASA comes up. Wayne says, "Get on the bus." Paul's like, "You tell Wayne, Lee and I aren't coming." So from that point on, the last 2 shows, Paul and my place, he just went, "Brr." But Milos was getting upset because we're eating all this shit food. And Milos is taking diuretics and we're still beating him. And then NASA was funny at one restaurant. We're like, "Let's send some chocolate cake to NASA." So we get the waiter, "Take this chocolate cake to NASA." I've never seen NASA fucking flip out. He was yelling at the waiter, "Get that fucker away from me." He stood up. "Who did this? Who sent this to me?" Paul and I are laughing. He's like, "You think this is funny?" This it's like, yeah, but we just ate what we can. But as the tour went on towards the end, we're just eating shit. But Ronnie was eating clean. I see Ronnie with boiled eggs and that. Then the very last show is when he beat Kevin and won the Russian show. So
I always wondered how you guys pulled off.
Yeah, you just got to try and get what you can, because some places would try and have food, but and then I saw Ronnie, he'd have this container and he's stuffing eggs and that in to try to take with him a day or 2 later. I'm thinking, oh, he's going to get fucking food poisoning.
Oh man, yeah. So yeah, because I'm thinking about like with Romania,
mm-hmm.
like what do I do?
Well, it's good idea. Like I said, normally you can take food on the plane till you get to your destination. A lot of places you got to dump it, but I'm hoping like having the show there, they'll have people ready and have food or something waiting for you, or at least someone there who can gather up what you need to, those us.
Yeah, if I do get invited, I mean, I won't know until April 24th, but I already booked an Airbnb for the week before. And so I figured I'll bring my food for that trip, and then I'll go food shopping when I get there.
Yeah, that's the best. You want to get there too. That's why I don't understand when people travel. I don't know how people can come in the last couple of days. It's like, if you can't trust airlines these days, so you could have problems there, anything like that. So you want to, at least if you're coming to America or going overseas, you need at least a week, because the day you get there, you're going to be rushing around, checking in, doing whatever. Like you said, you've got to go buy food, and then you want to settle in, and then you have a good 5 days to acclimatise to your new surroundings, the gym and everything. So I can't get when people just come in the last few days and they're like, oh, I spilt over. Like, I wonder why. It's like, just the stress of it all. It's just, I hate traveling when I was dieting. It was just the stress.
Yeah, I can imagine. Well, it was different. Like when you did the Grand Prix after the shows, you guys were like almost like a team in a sense, traveling together.
Yeah.
The camera. Did you compete with Lee Labrada also?
No, I think he just finished before I did. I did the Olympia that Dorian retired in. Well, I could have done the 95 Olympia, but I got suspended that year and couldn't do it. So I had to wait for 97.
Oh, so he retired just before you started?
I think so, yeah. Because, look, what was the Labrada's last Olympia, was it? He did the 92, didn't he? He did 93.
I think the Arnold Classic was his last contest.
Okay,
I think the 95 Arnold, I think.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
No, he never did any shows with me. He's lucky. I would have beat him.
So, Lee, your last show was about 10 years ago. What made you finally decide to hang him up? Injury or just burnt out or what?
Well, like I said, the 06 one of the IFBB was just done. And then I'm thinking I was going to compete in 010, but that's when I had a car accident and stuff. And then I was just like 7 years ago in passing, skip ahead to 2013, NABA contacted me, goes, Lee, would you ever come out of retirement to do the universe? I'm like, They must have got me on a good day. I said, yeah, sure. And then I'm thinking, fuck, I've committed to it. And I started getting ready for it. But just that pressure of, I haven't been on stage in 7 years. I was sort of a top IFBB pro. Now I'm going to NABA. If I don't do well in NABA, I said, I'm not even going to go online to read the fucking comments, because it'll be, you fucking has been washed up. No matter how good I look, even if I got second, they'll blast you. So luckily it went my way and I ended up winning the universe. And then, no, I was just going to retire. I didn't have the accident. The accident came in 2015, because when I won the universe 2013, 2014, I just went to promote NABA in that. 2015, I just started dieting for the Worlds, and that's when I got T-bone. So it was sort of like, sometimes I think I'd like to do the Masters if everything fell into place, just to end on my terms, whereas the car accident is what stopped me competing. Yeah. So that's the only thing that sort of niggles at me a bit, like, fuck, I wish I could have just done one show and go, okay, now I'm done, I'm retiring, rather than, here you go, here's a car accident, you can't compete anymore. So
you have until April 10th to write a letter.
Get your letter in your pictures.
To get a chest implant. But now with all this transgender stuff, maybe I can do the women's.
Maybe.
Leanne Priest is back.
Lee, I know you've been asked 1,000,001 times, and I promised Vinny we would not try to be redundant, but everyone's asking me, if you were competing today, would you stay open? Would you go 212 if you were competitive today?
If the 212 was around, I probably would do it. But then if I'd won like the 212 Olympia once or twice, or even once, I'd go open, because it'd be more of a challenge then to go into the open class and really go up against them. And so, like I said, I didn't have the opportunity back in the day. It was just the open class, and I just found it exciting competing against bigger guys. And when I beat him, like watching him cry and get upset, he should never beat me. He's only short. Shut up. So it was like,
it's good.
When I watched Ronnie say that his worst thing in his career was me beating him, I'm like, yes, that stuck with him all those years.
Best Lee Priest versus best Fleck Lewis.
Oh God, we get that asked all the time, and Flex says I would beat him. I say he would beat me. So I don't know, because we both have our good points and weak points, and I always say it would have been great for me, Flex, Jose Raymond, all those guys up on stage together. It would have been great battles back in the day. I'm sure the placings would have went back and forth on a few of the shows, but would have been fun to do back in things like that. So yeah.
Yeah.
So, what are you doing? What do you do today? What's your daily routine? What do you do?
I get up in the morning. I got 2 dogs and a few cats, so I take care of them. Then I go to the gym, cardio, train, come home, answer some emails and that. I do this thing called The Circles. It's an app on Telegram, which is pretty good. I do that with Flex Lewis and Jay Cutler and Guy Sistonino, Juji, Evan Centopani. It's like an app where we just talk back and forth and we just rip into each other. It's like so funny, and people can follow and comment to us and stuff like that. So I do that. I answer questions on that AMA IFBB page on Instagram and that. But then, I was with Dave with Species now, but sadly that contract's come up. So I'm going back to my old sponsor, Mental Hamster, because I was with my friend owns Mental Hamster. And then when COVID come, it's like for 2 years I couldn't travel. And because he's a good friend, I'm like, look, I don't want to take your money and not do anything because you're a friend. Now, if it's a company that I didn't care about, sure. But so Dave gave me the opportunity and signed me for a year, which I'm appreciative of. And the contract just ended, and my friend asked me to go back to Mental Hamster. So I'll be going back to that company again. And like I said, I still love Dave's products and that. So yeah, that's about it. And then, I just try and do as little as possible these days. I could be doing more because I always give Jay a hard time and Flex Lewis a hard time for thinking, well, Ed Connors used to get mad at me because like, Lee, you could be making so much money. I'm like, yeah, but look, money's great. But I'm like, as long as I got food on the table, a roof over my head, I got a car, I got a little bit of money where I'm comfortable. I don't want a lot because I could have traveled every weekend back in the day. But to me, traveling is so stressful. I hated it. So why do it if it's going to make me fucking stressed out? Yeah, I get more money, but if I'm not going to be happy doing it, why do it? So I do little things here and there, but not to the point where, like I said, I see Jay on there. It's like, I'm traveling this weekend. I'm flying here. I'm getting the red eye back here. I'm like, oh, fuck that. It's like, I don't care what money you're paying me. I ain't doing it. So
yeah, Jay's going to be, I think, a special guest at the Masters Olympia.
Okay.
In Romania, yeah. Just so
I'd like to go to Romania because Romania's around that area, isn't like the old Transylvania, Dracula's castle. I love to go see all that stuff.
Yeah, I'm interested in seeing that. That's going to be kind of cool.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of questions too that came in from different people who want to obviously interact with you. If you could break bread with one bodybuilding icon and pick his or her brain, who would it be?
Like I said, Tom Platt, but I was always good friends with Tom and trained with Tom, but an icon. I'd probably say going back, I'd probably, just because I heard he had different training methods, it'd be like Vince Garonda. Because Vince Garonda was sort of totally different to everybody else when it came to training styles. He didn't believe in squatting and that. So I'd just like to get his take on his style of training back then. Because everyone used to go heavy, 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 where Vince was more hitting, almost like a Charles Glass, hitting the muscle from different angles and stuff like that. So just something interesting like that would be interesting just to see what gave him these techniques and ideas to train people that way.
I met him once.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I met him once. And he walked up to me and he grabbed my wrist. He put his fingers around my wrist and he says, "You're going to be a light heavyweight. You're a light heavyweight." And that was it. I heard
he was into that sort of thing too. Like you'd look at somebody's neck and the neck size and stuff like that. So yeah, he always wore that scarf. Remember that scarf around his neck all the time? He almost looked like a crazy movie producer when you saw him.
Right. Yeah, because the biggest athlete he had was Muhammad Makawe.
Yeah. He has a good, like, I won't say smaller, but shorter in stature bodybuilder. He was great.
I think he placed second in the Olympia.
Yeah. He had wonderful posing too. His posing routines were great, dramatic.
Very dramatic, yeah.
People are like, who the fuck's, but let me fucking Google Muhammad Makawe.
Yeah. I know, because everybody knows Frank Zane, but then they don't know the rest of the guys that were competing.
Yeah. Or they know Arnold Franco Colombo. Sometimes I mention like the thickness of Bertil Fox even, but people mainly know Bertil Fox from the murders and being in jail more than how freaky he was and how big he was back in the day. So yeah, it's like you mentioned some bodybuilders, they look at you like, well, I'm at the gym now sometimes and I say to kids, I might put ABBA on. Who's ABBA? I'm like, ABBA. Jesus, I'm showing my age now. I'm that old guy at the gym.
That's funny. Yeah.
Lee, somebody mentioned too, one of the Arnolds, you wore boots. Did you get any flack or anybody from the federation about wearing props or boots out on stage?
That's that year we could wear props and that. So I had the Superman cape and the Superman posing trunks and the red boots. So yeah, that was the year we could use props at the Arnold.
Yeah.
Were you the only one though?
No, other people had props. No, I was probably the only one with boots on, but
Okay.
yeah, other people had different props and that. Yeah.
You had a couple of routines that you did to Superman, right?
Yeah, mainly at the Arnold, and then I did them both at the PDI. The PDI one, Wayne had the phone box on the stage, and his son was in the telephone box. And then they filled it with smoke, and he slipped out the back, and I opened up the door and stepped out of it. So it looked pretty good.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool.
That's interesting, though. You bring up the PDI league because obviously it sounded like there was some friction between both you and Wayne, but yet you still went over to his federation for a while.
Yeah, like I said, I don't hold grudges of anyone, or not. There's never been personal attacks. And then, like I said, I wished I could have done both, because like the IFBB doesn't pay you money. You've got to pay them for your pro card. They put on shows. You're an independent contractor. So I saw Wayne had a couple of shows on, good prize money. He said it was going to be judging more the symmetrical type, not the bloated stomachs. I figured, well, this show here's like a couple of weeks before the Olympia. I'll be in shape. I'll give it a go. I went and done it. Now you're suspended. I'm like, oh, fucking hell.
Yeah, because I remember you had a lot of battles with Semi El Haddad. He was another one that was up and coming. He was phenomenal.
Really good,
yeah.
Is he still doing wasn't he doing the 212s for a while, Sammy?
Yeah,
I think a little bit.
2 years.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah. And with this Masters Olympia coming up too, I said it should be 50 years and over, and it should be 50 plus, and you haven't competed for at least 3 or 4 years, because there's some guys doing the Open Olympia now who could step on the Masters stage, which I think isn't fair. You got to let the older guys who've been in retirement for a while have their day in the sun again.
It's going to be interesting.
There's
going to be 10 different categories.
What's the actual prize money? Because I heard they're saying $229 overall, but what's the actual prize money for the winner of the Masters?
We don't know yet. We don't know anything yet.
Here's your trophy and a lollipop. Thank you. Trophy and a Viagra bottle. Yeah, happy go.
Cialis.
Yeah.
We don't know. We don't know what does invitation only mean. We don't really know. So yeah, we know all the we only know April 24th who's invited. But other than that, they didn't say. Well, I mean, the prize money just came out, so maybe they're going to trickle. Maybe they're stringing it along so that way.
I just when I saw the figure of 229, I'm like, should I just send them 1,000 to make it 230? It's like 229 is such a random number. It's like
yeah, I don't know where they got it from, but yeah. But if they do it evenly, it's 29,000, a little over under 30,000.
Okay.
Per, but I would assume that the men's will get more than, and then it'll trickle down.
Well, I find too, though, if you're going into Masters, it's one of those things where you love training, you love doing it. You're not doing it for the money anyway. So it's just something that I think when you get on in life, it just gives you a goal again. And if you're healthy and you can aim for that goal and train for it and do it. It's not about
just like
I wouldn't do it for that little money. It's like, it's not about the money half the time. It's just people want to do it.
Yeah. I've gotten that question, and, I've said, I was a good bodybuilder. I did well, but I never got to the Olympia. And now this is my chance to get to an Olympia stage. And I like what you said a little while ago, the accident is what stopped you from competing. Yeah. You want to end it on your terms. Mm-hmm. And I didn't end it on my terms. I had the injuries and I stopped competing. I wasn't looking good. I had 14 screws throughout my shoulders. And so now that I'm doing this again, I just want to end this the way I want to end it. I didn't know 4 years ago that the Olympia was coming back. I thought I was going to do a master show and maybe one more 212 and call it a day.
And I'm sure too, the whole prize money didn't enter your mind. You probably just saw it's coming back and you thought, you know what, I'm going to aim for that. I want to get in shape and do that and see how good I can look. The prize money, if you love the sport and you love competing and doing it, the prize money, it's like a bonus if you get it. That's not your main goal. Your main goal is to get in the best shape you can be in, have fun, go do the show and hopefully win it. And that's like the goal in itself. If you get a bit of money on the side, fantastic. But money's not no one really got into bodybuilding for the money, let's be honest. So it's like
But But I think nowadays, though, I think with some of the pros, I feel like it's almost bodybuilding's important, but it's more of how many followers can I get on Instagram nowadays.
Yeah. Mate, if I didn't have sponsors, I wouldn't be on Instagram or Facebook or anything. I'm just like like I said, there's some good fans on there, but then I don't get this whole mentality of the hate and people that follow people just to talk shit. Like I do podcasts with Dave. Oh, this fuckwit's on again talking. So I'm like, why do you watch? You post on my thing. Normally after they post a lot on my Instagram, I just block them. I'm like, you've been going on too long. It's like, I respect tennis players. I might watch the finals in Wimbledon, but I don't follow Nadal and go, you fucking suck. Your backhand is the worst I've ever fucking seen. You should quit. You fuckers. It's like, I got better things to do with my life, but yet we get these people that follow bodybuilders just to trash talk them down. I'm like, go get a life. It's like, fuck.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
And half the people that do it go to the gym, train, take gear. It's like, you're here, professional bodybuilder. They want to get here, but yet they fucking tear you down. It's like, why do you hate me? I'm where you want to get to. It's like, it's unbelievable.
Oh, I know. I've been getting it a little bit lately. I'm getting it. Oh, I mean, yeah, some people are just like.
Lee, do you feel Classic will eventually come on par with Open or overtake it?
It's hard to say. I think Open's always going to be. You always have the people that like the freaks and that. And it's sad they had to make Classic because back in the day, Open had a lot of classic type physiques. Even as big as Dillette was, you may have seen Dillette's like silhouette at the Arnold or Olympia. He had the light behind him, shoulders, waist, legs. So it just got to the point, I think, when probably Dorian on a bit and then Ronnie, where the stomach started coming out, we started losing that. The judges started rewarding that look. So everyone thought, we've got to go get big like that. And then it just blew it out the water. So they had to make the classic class rather than if you had started putting guys who were like classic first at the Olympia, the bigger guys would have went, hey, fuck, this look ain't working anymore. I better tone it in. So.
Right.
Yeah, and I feel like they started going that way again, but I think we're going big again. We're bringing it back in with Sean Roden, but
well, I thought that too with Sean when Dexter won. I thought, oh shit, okay, they're going to start going back and go back for that look again. So, but then they go the opposite, and then sometimes too would be like the judging just seems weird. Like they might have someone like Dorian win, big and blocky. Yeah. Then someone like Labrada would be second. You're like, okay, symmetrical, smaller, and then third would be Nasser. It's like, how do you go from this to this back to this? Shouldn't it all be big and blocky and work your way down to the symmetrical people? So I don't know. I don't know how. Well, I think it's like women. We're never going to work out the judging. We're never going to work out women. So
can't figure them out. Yeah.
Lee, when you look at your career, are you happy with the way? Obviously, not the way it ended, but are you happy with the way your history went down?
Yeah. I never look at it, even though people get abused. You never won the Olympia. It's like I was a realist. I never thought I'd win the Olympia, being my stature and the other people that were better than me. So, yeah, considering, like I said, just suspensions and my mouth being always open, I had a great career, placed well, won 5 pro shows in a lot. I think I've got 5 seconds at the Ironman in a row. And then, I've done a lot, like top 6 at the Olympia 4 times. So I'm like, I'm happy with it. I'm very happy. It's like, I don't complain. I know fans and people say I should have placed better, but hey, it's like, bodybuilding is such an objective sport. To me, it's like me getting in the top 6 at the Olympia back in those days was just as good as me winning it. I remember doing those Mitsuru Okabe battle for the Olympias. Mm-hmm. And on there, when Mitsuru tries to talk to me, I'm like, don't talk to me. I'm training for 8th place or 10th place because people say, Lee, how do you want to do at the Olympia? I never said I was going to win. I said, look, I hope to get around 10th. And if I got 10th, great, because back then that qualified you for the following year. So if I'm hoping to get 10th and I got 7th or 6th or 5th, to me, that's like a win. So I never really, like I said, I love the bodybuilding. I love traveling to meet fans, the expos and stuff, competing. Well, back in the day, you had to compete at least 3 times a year to keep your contract. So competing was mainly for that. I wish I never had to compete at all. I could just go through and do all the expos and meet fans and that. So, competing to me was just like, when you get to that level, it's so, when back in the day when you had like Kevin, Nasser, Flex, Chris Cormier, and everyone's in shape, it's so hard to pick a winner. It just comes down to God knows what the judges are looking for because they're all champions. So it's like to say, when people go, who's the best here or who would have been the best? It's like different eras, different times, different bodies. You can't really. They're all great. So
yeah, you went against
super humble. Go ahead, Vinny. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say you went against probably the best of the best in an era that and you slayed some guys.
Vinny said that. Vinny said that, not me, people, because every time I say that, you old guys living in the past, blah blah blah.
You're so humble, Lee. Are you surprised at how popular you still are in today's bodybuilding? I mean, I think you might be more popular now than you were competing.
I think so, because like I've always just been myself. You know, when people go, "You're Lee Priest," they still do it today. "Oh, you're Lee Priest." I'm like, I'm just Lee. I'm no different to you. You go to the gym, you train. I'm the same as you. Okay, I had a pro card. Whoopie fucking do. Doesn't make me any better than you. It's like I used to tell people, I'd go to the gym. To this day, I've never asked somebody how many sets, because people go, "Lee, you want that machine?" I said, "No, someone's using it." "Well, I'll kick them off it." I said, "No." I said, "I'm getting ready for the Olympia or a pro show. That's important to me. But if you're on a machine just to build muscle, or a lady's on a machine to lose weight, that's just as important to her. I got no more right to the machine." So no matter what it is, business, anything in life where people have money, I'm like, we're all equal. Just because you got more money than somebody else doesn't make you better. Yes, I was a good pro bodybuilder. You might be a great plumber, so I'm no better than you. So I was like, I've always just been that way. I just treat people as equal. I'm no better than anybody else. And that's how it should be. But, it's like anything, actors or people with money or some sort of thing. You're like, "Do you know who I am?" I'm like, "Oh, fuck off, you're a wanker." So it's like,
a wanker? Well, damn, that's a great way to look at life and just how to navigate.
I've always been that way.
Yeah. So that's awesome. Lee, it's been a pleasure, man. Thank you so much. It's been
great talking to you, and let me know. I want to know if you get the invite to the Masters.
You'll be the first one I message.
Thank you.
Well, it's really been a pleasure. And I look forward to meeting you in person. I look forward to meeting you at the Apollon seminar.
Yeah. Oh, that'll be a good seminar, won't it, when I get there? Whoa. You never know what Lee will say.
But Lee, where can people find you if you want to promote the new brand you'll be with, your friend's brand? I mean,
that'll be Mental Hamster or Mental Monkey on Instagram and Facebook. And then me, I'm just official Lee Priest 72 on Instagram. That's my third Instagram page, because Instagram's deleted my other two accounts, saying the wrong thing. I got a warning the other day. I didn't know. I called someone a clown, and I put up the clown like emoji.
Yeah.
I get this thing. Boom. This is hate speech and a hate symbol. I'm like, what? Fucking clown? Yeah, because now, for some reason, the clown, because of Donald Trump, is related to right-wing fractions of it.
Oh boy.
World's going mad. So,
but that's where I am.
Crazy. I'm Lee Priest on Facebook, but I think there's a couple of fake ones there. Generally, you can tell which one's me if you read through it. I'll be abusing someone, calling them a dickhead and the C word, so you know which one's me.
Well, thanks again for coming on, man.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
It was a pleasure, my friend.
I know it's late there, Vinny, so go to bed, get your rest. You got a Masters Olympia coming up.
Yep, it's 8 o'clock.
Well, that's late. I'm in bed at 7:30 because I get up at 4. Come 7:30, I'm like this.
Well, what time is it there in Australia?
It is lunchtime at 12, just coming on 12, midday on Thursday.
It's Thursday. All right.
It's Wednesday there. It's Thursday here.
Yes.
I'm in the future. What do you want to know about the future? Anything?
Lee, again, it was an absolute pleasure, my friend, and thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lee.
Thank you. Take care.